right. Ned Price it is. That's the screen that's on. Ned Price, Department of State. Yeah, let's do it. All right. Ned Price, Department of State. He had a Monday and a show. He had a press briefing Monday and a press briefing today. I watched them both. Today's was very, very pointless, but Monday's was fucking infuriating. It's a really good way to get mad at the U.S. government, and that's how we'll start our night out, getting mad at the U.S. government. Maybe we'll do government secrets after. We'll need a break after this.
Time to allow for meaningful participation from across the Indo-Pacific region. For further information on the IPBF and how you can register, we encourage you to visit our website, www.indopacificbusinessforum.com. With that plug, turn it over to your questions.
Right. Thanks. I'll be very brief since it's late. I apologize.
All right, they're hard to hear, so let's go slow.
But you guys have a number.
Sorry, go on.
You guys have a number of initiatives out there about that deal with war crimes or potential war crimes or investigating potential war crimes in Ukraine. And I'm just wondering, Jake's comments this morning in Mexico City about looking at or saying that Iran might be complicit in any such war crimes is something that is being looked at. So I'm just wondering, is this an active area of investigation at least from the elements that you guys are involved in?
So, Matt, you were right that there are a number of elements, and we are discussing, and when I say we, I mean primarily here at the State Department, Beth Van Schaack, our ambassador at large for global criminal justice, and her team, and others are discussing with other countries, with other entities, other venues, vehicles, and fora that may be appropriate to help adjudicate the question of war crimes. We've talked about some of the initiatives that are already underway. First and foremost, the cooperation we have and the support we're lending to the Prosecutor General of Ukraine and to that entity, knowing that the Prosecutor General, of course, has jurisdiction, has immense interest in pursuing these crimes, but also what the OSCE is doing, what the Human Rights Council has set up with the support of Secretary Blinken and the United States, and other initiatives that have been put forward by other countries and entities as well. We've also made the point that we are not looking merely at those responsible for pulling the trigger or for pressing the button, as it were.
Okay, let's take this all in real quick. We are talking about investigating war crimes done by Russia in Ukraine to Ukrainian people, and now he is going on and going to say that not only do we want to prosecute, the individuals who are maybe right there or the head captains, we want to take it all the way up to Putin or one of Putin's advisors or something and prosecute all of them for war crimes. That's where we're heading right now. I hate his face so much. I made like 3 gifs of it last year when I was doing the show, guys. He is such a okay. So we are going to prosecute Russia for war crimes up and down the line. So according to this, what he's saying, yes, Obama should be prosecuted for war crimes because we are still, and Trump and Biden, because we are still torturing people in Guantanamo. We are still doing it. We thought we were going to shut it down. It was only a product of 9/11. It shouldn't be there, but it's still there. Still there. Still a torture facility. So all of our presidents are war criminals, but he is actually going to go on.
We are prepared in accordance with international humanitarian law to go all the way up the ladder to see to it who precisely is responsible for issuing these orders and not only for taking these actions. If in the course of that work we are in a position to determine that the Iranian government as a whole or that senior Iranian officials are...
Sorry, it was Iranian this time. I think the point still stands, but Iranian are people convicted of war crimes this time, and we'll bounce back and forth to Russia, Ukraine, Iran.
Are complicit or responsible for war crimes, we will work to hold them to account as well. We've made no secret of the fact that Iran is providing Russia with much needed security assistance. And security
Oh, he's going to say this so much. Security assistance. Security assistance. They're helping him. They're helping the Russians.
assistance is almost euphemistic in this sense, because this is more to the point the provision of lethal equipment that Russia is using every single day to target civilian infrastructure, to target energy infrastructure, to potentially even target civilians themselves.
Again, 90% of our drone bombs hit civilians in the several wars that we are using drone bombs in at the moment. Currently helping, Israel bomb Syria, currently helping Saudis bomb Yemen, currently actively bombing in Somalia, Niger. So those hit civilians, and we know they hit civilians. We've done studies and proven they've hit civilians, so we're doing the same thing you're saying.
Made the determination early on in Russia's war against Ukraine that Russia's forces have committed war crimes. We have continued to document evidence of war crimes, and if that evidence points to another state, points to other foreign actors involved in these war crimes, we'll work to hold them to account as well.
Okay, but you,
There he goes. He says he's okay with going after other heads of state over war crimes possibly being done when we are perpetuating war crimes at a continual rate, yearly, daily rate.
like, as you just said, you have already made that
That's right.
determination with Russia.
That's right.
You have not yet made it.
We have not made a formal determination when it comes to other states or state actors.
To follow up on that one.
Sure.
Unlike Russia, Iran is a state sponsor designated by the United States government. Does it change how you possibly make a determination, how you approach for crimes investigation, and also accountability for folks in the United States be able to go after Iranian leaders by using the U.S. law and by also using the fact that Iran is the state sponsor within the U.S. legal system.
There are certain differences between the state sponsor of terrorism designation that Iran carries and other designations that are attached to Russian entities, to Russian actors. But the designation of a state sponsor of terrorism doesn't allow us, or I should say, the fact that Russia is not a designated state sponsor of terrorism does not deprive us of any tools that we can appropriately and as warranted wield against the Russian government. We have a number of authorities that we have used to hold Russia to account. We've imposed biting sanctions, biting export controls, other economic and financial measures. You can see the effectiveness of those measures, the compounding effectiveness of those measures.
It's still compounding, so don't worry about it. It'll get there eventually. Eventually it will really, it will really, really strike them hard. Eventually it will.
Across many different methods.
Again, I mean, they're trading with China, they're trading with other massive countries, so it's not really, and Europe's still trading with them basically. I mean, it's, but.
Metrics that you look at, even the metrics that the Russian government, the central bank, the Russian finance ministry has itself issued. You see that in the slowing economic growth and the economic downturn, but also in the mere fact that Russia is being forced to turn to states with whom it typically has not partnered on security assistance. Iran being one of them, the DPRK being another as well. So we are wielding every appropriate authority. We're also working with Congress to attempt to find a way to hold Russia accountable.
How do I phrase this? Hold them accountable? Why not? Fucking idiot. Jesus.
for its aggression in such a way that allows us to impose costs without having to grapple with the unintended implications that the state sponsor of terrorism designation carries.
Singapore sanctioned 7 Iranian industry leaders just last Friday, leaders of the factory, the drone factory, and also Mrs. Problems. It also involved Mrs. Problem. What's the next step in this case? Is the Iranian supreme leader potential subject to let's say U.S. sanctions once you determine involvement?
Well, these sanctions are pursuant to various executive orders. These executive orders spell out precisely the criteria that we look at when we determine if a foreign actor is a potential target for any given executive order. So we're not taking anything off the table. We are going to do and take actions that intend to disrupt this pipeline of lethal supplies, lethal materials that have gone from Iran to Russia. We've also talked about.
Oh my God. Okay, so weapons are going from Iran to Russia, and then they're ending up in terrorist hands in that supply chain, or they're going from Russia to Iran, and then they're ending up in terrorist hands, and it's all, we're going to have to do consequences. But there's literally evidence that America's weapons that is going to Ukraine, only a third of them are ending up in Ukraine, a third of them are ending up in like Africa, and a third of them are ending up in the Middle East. So we are the weapons supplier of the planet right now, and yet we're going to try to say that we're going to blame Russia for getting weapons to terrorists? We are the world's weapons supplier. Us, the U.S. of assholes.
This is a two-way street. The relationship between Russia and Iran is one of a close security partner, a close military partner. Iran has become Russia's most important supplier of needed security assistance, but Russia...
Security assistance. He likes that word. I fucking hate it, but he likes it.
Too, has in turn started to provide Iran with security assistance that it needs. So we are going to look at all relevant tools, all relevant authorities, all relevant laws that are on the books to hold to account those who are responsible for this. Mark.
Can we go to Brazil and let me
Can I
ask
follow
you?
Russia one more?
One more on Russia.
Yes. At the recent
That look right there. That's the one. One more on Russia? All right. One interesting about the Department of State Secretary here, these press briefings, they actually kind of stay on topic for whole segments. And before, like, they absolutely flip and change subjects. They don't go like every person kind of ask whatever they want. These guys go according to, like, anybody will jump in if they have a question. It's kind of, at least some days it's like that. I've only watched like 5 or 6 so far.
summit between the Russian President Putin and the Chinese President Xi Jinping highlighted their military cooperation. How do you think China and Russia military cooperation will affect Ukraine and the Korean Peninsula?
Well, I can speak to Ukraine, of course, and we have made also no secret of the fact that we are watching very closely. We are watching very closely the decisions that the PRC makes when it comes to any Russian requests for security assistance. We know that Russia has been forced, as I've already said, to turn to other partners, Iran, the DPRK, for security assistance precisely because we are starving the Russian state of the inputs that it needs to prosecute its war against Ukraine most effectively.
Okay, again, so they can trade with China, and they have a huge nation of minerals, oils, most of the things they need. I mean, they need a little bit of food from some places, but they can trade with China. They can trade with, Jesus, guys. Oh, man. This guy. Like, seriously. Russia is not strangled by our sanctions. And yet we're still allowing Russia to trade their oil and natural gas with Europe. Like, it's restricted, but they're still trading. So,
And again, that is putting it euphemistically. We are starving systematically the Russian government of what it needs, what it thinks it needs to
what it thinks it needs. It doesn't even need it, but it thinks it needs it, so we're starving them. Like, what the fuck are you even saying? It thinks it needs it, so we're starving it of what it thinks it needs.
fulfill what it deems as its mission to kill the Ukrainian people, to target Ukrainian infrastructure,
His rhythm.
to go after Ukrainian cities and towns,
Oh, come on, you had that rhythm. You had this rehearsed.
hitting in the process civilian targets, apartment buildings, residential buildings, schools, hospitals, nurseries. Nothing, it seems, has been off limits to the Russian state in its pursuit of this brutal war.
Okay, everything that he just named were things that the U.S. hit with drone bombs in Syria. Everything that he just named, every fucking item that he named, are things that we have drone bombed in Syria. Yeah, all right.
So we're watching very closely. We've been very clear with the PRC, including in private, including when the two presidents met in Bali last November, about any costs that would befall the PRC should they decide to assist Russia in a systematic effort to evade U.S. sanctions or in the provision of security assistance that would then be used against the Ukrainian people.
Security assistance, drink. Every time he says it. Ah, how I lose volume.
Assist Russia in a systematic effort to evade U.S. sanctions or in the provision of security assistance that would then be used against the Ukrainian people in Ukraine. So we're watching very closely.
We'll have to continue with Brazil.
We'll come back to China kind of later. Go ahead.
Yeah, just on this Brazil, Bolsonaro's visa,
All right.
I understand you.
We don't need to talk about the visa, Bolsonaro's visa, the visa. Doesn't fucking matter. Come on, people. All right, but the next subject's pretty interesting. So, like I said, they hit them all in one block.
An individual is subject to removal by the Department of Homeland Security. Yes.
Thank you. So I'm going to go where you started at the very top about getting help. I want to ask you talked about advanced peace. Can you tell me how this so-called Abraham Accord advanced peace in any way? I mean, in the last 2 years, I've seen Israel wage 2 major wars on Gaza. We see a war ongoing day in and day out in the West Bank. Last year was the bloodiest year for the Palestinians since the Second Intifada. And certainly the economic conditions for the Palestinians has worsened by a great deal. So other than just these guys getting together and maybe having good meals, drinks, and so on, what have they done to really advance peace?
Whew. You do not hear those kind of questions from Main Street media to our president or anything like that. Oh, shots. That is solid. That's a solid question. That's good, right? Like, that is impressive. Now let's watch the runaround. Let's watch the tiny dancer.
So you do a couple things. First, the Negev process really kicked off in earnest last year, and just last year. It was in March of last year when Secretary Blinken was in the Negev desert in Sidi Boker with his counterparts. So this is a process that is relatively new. It is part of the reason why we're especially eager to have the opportunity to have these working groups constituted today and tomorrow in Abu Dhabi on the part of several dozen U.S. government officials and their counterparts from these other countries. But we've also been clear. This process is not a substitute for Israeli-Palestinian peace. We support the normalization of relations between Israel and its Arab and Muslim majority neighbors and countries around the world, but it's not a substitute. We believe, and we've heard from participants in the Negev process as well, that normalization can and should be leveraged to advance progress on the Israeli-Palestinian track. Secretary Blinken made this clear in March of last year when he was in the Negev. He said that we have to be clear that these regional peace agreements are not a substitute for progress between Palestinians and Israelis. He also noted in those same remarks how countries involved in the Abraham Accords and other normalization agreements, as well as those that have longstanding diplomatic relations with Israel, can support the Palestinian people, how they can support the Palestinian Authority in concrete ways and have a positive impact on the daily lives of Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. And I don't have to tell you, Saeed, that there are several of these countries involved in the Negev process that are doing quite a lot for the Palestinian people. There are other countries that have normalized relations or have diplomatic relations with Israel who are doing quite a lot for the Palestinian people. The United States is doing quite a lot for the Palestinian people.
No. What? What concrete can you say? Come on, Ned Price. Netty boy. What can you say, huh? What can you say? You can say nothing that we've positively done for the Palestinian people except for maybe hold the lunches that these guys talk at, but they don't actually get anything done, or giving mass amounts of weapons to Israel, or giving, no, absolutely not. No. I am sorry, sir. No. Nope.
On a basis of people-to-people ties. But this is an ongoing conversation. And it's a conversation that we believe can and really must support our goal of Palestinians and Israelis enjoying equal measures of freedom, of democracy, and of dignity.
Of freedom, democracy. Yeah, I like that. That works. Yeah, okay. Jesus, man, come on.
I mean, those are fine words, but in fact,
Hold on. I really like this guy. Oh,
those are fine words, but
those are fine words, Those are fine words, Oh, I want him to be my grandpa. He's such a good old man. He's such a good old guy. Look at this guy. He's a good old guy.
in fact, isn't this process aiding and abetting Israel into deluding itself that it's war with everybody else except for the Palestinians? Well, in fact, the war is with the Palestinians. It's not with the Israelis. It's not with Morocco. I mean, I can understand the transactional value of these accords and these agreements and so on. In fact, for the accomplish peace, it's not there. And we've seen, like Oman, for instance, that was the country that was perceived as being probably the next place to normalize criminalizing any contact with Israel. So even on that track, they're okay. So, I mean, one can go on and on.
One could go on and on. Oh, he is finally. I want to see stupid Ned's face right now.
In fact, you have not. There has been not one step taken by any of these countries to really pressure Israel into easing its treatment, making life out or giving anything that resembles equal measure.
So every time the United States of America engages with our Israeli partners in a substantive way, we discuss issues as they pertain to Israeli-Palestinian relations. We discuss the need to improve day-to-day lives of Palestinian Palestinian civilians. We discuss ways we can make tangible advancements, tangible progress towards a negotiated two-state solution.
One way is you could allow anything to get into the Gaza Strip. You could get anything into the West Bank. You could allow the horrible oh man. The press never talks about this. Like, he's actually getting asked, but he's just not. Man.
Don't speak for other governments, but having been at the Negev last March, I can tell you that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was a topic of discussion between other governments, the other participating governments in Israel. And I would suspect that in the talks that took place today and the talks that take place tomorrow in Abu Dhabi, there will be quite a bit of talk, including on the part of the United States, but also on the part of these other Arab governments, of the need to see tangible progress, tangible improvements.
Okay, again, we are talking about Palestine and Israel. Israel being one of our closest allies, Palestine being the nation that we can't seem to help somehow. We're barely able to help a little bit, kind of, sort of, but don't know. We just got to talk about it. We can't really help them yet. So that's what we're talking about, and us, along with other Arab nations, are going to have a voice in this. Why are we the most important voice in this at all? Like, how come our voice is even being heard? This isn't our region. This isn't the Middle East isn't like co-owned by the USA, Saudi Arabia, and Israel, and everybody else gets a choice of, you don't get a choice to listen or shut up. Like, they have they're sovereign nations. They're not our freaking oil brothers.
In the day-to-day conditions for the Palestinian people. This is an opportunity to have those discussions, which itself is important.
Lastly, Israel slapped sanctions on the PA because it's turning to the ICJ. What if you have any comment on that?
We have been consistent in our own strong opposition to the request for an ICJ advisory opinion concerning Israel. So we've talked about that before, including last week. We believe this action was counterproductive and will only take the parties further away from the objective of a negotiated two-state solution. We are seeking both sides to take steps to move them closer to a negotiated two-state solution. We've also been clear that Israelis and Palestinians alike equally deserve to live in safety and security. They deserve equal measures of freedom, of dignity, justice, and prosperity as well. And we'll continue to encourage all parties to refrain from unilateral actions that...
All parties to refrain from actions. There is one party that is doing actions and one party... Oh, that's not true. That's not fair. That's not fair. Unilateral... That's not fair. You have a lot of people, some 4 million people in an open-air prison, basically, and you're talking about equal health, equal prosperity, equal safety, equal freedoms. There's no, nope.
threaten the viability of a two-state solution and the path towards direct negotiations.
So would you urge the Israelis to release the money that they held?
I'm sorry?
To release the money that they held?
We
Some $40 million.
We have continued to make the point that unilateral actions that threaten the viability of a two-state solution, unilateral actions that only exacerbate tensions, those are not in the interests of a negotiated two-state solution.
You said the Palestinian move was counterproductive, but what about the Israeli move? Not just on the money, but also on the cancellation or the revocation of the travel.
Well, this is part of the reason why we've opposed the Palestinian move when it comes to the ICJ, knowing that it could potentially only serve to increase tensions. That is exactly what has happened.
What you're saying is that the Palestinians brought this on themselves.
I'm not saying that.
Well,
Like, what are you saying? What are you saying? I mean, when you try to run around so much, when you try to say so little, you leave open for speculation. Say something. Say something definitive.
I'm just curious as to why you said the Palestinian move is counterproductive, but you won't say the Israeli move.
This was a unilateral action that certainly doesn't seem to move us closer to a negotiated two-state solution. In
Okay,
fact,
so-
it seems to set us back.
Okay, so the ICJ referral was a unilateral move, but the Israeli response to it is not the unilateral move,
I-
it is purely a response, and therefore
I
it's
did not
okay?
say that. I think it's fair to
I'm
call
not
it,
trying to
I think it is fair to
Yeah.
call it a unilateral response.
So, so you don't like it?
It is fair to call it a unilateral response. We wish we discouraged publicly the Palestinians from moving forward with this ICJ opinion because we didn't
Yeah,
want to
okay,
see
fine, but
tensions
do you discourage
exacerbated.
the Israelis from taking punitive measures in response?
We have
Or is
private
it
we have
the
private
Palestinians'
discussions.
own fault
We
that-
have private discussions with our Israeli partners as well. It is clear that these steps have served to exacerbate tensions. This is not in the interest of a
Yeah, but-
long-term
but-
negotiated
but
solution.
Which steps, though? Just the
We're
Palestinian
talking
side,
about
or
both. We are talking about both. Yes.
Sure.
Yep.
I want to ask you about Netanyahu's statements, but before that, I want to follow up on the Negev forum. The fact that the Secretary of State is not attending since the forum is not held on the ministerial level, is this a downgrade of this forum?
Not at all. This was never intended to be held at the ministerial level. When the participants got together several months ago, they agreed that individuals at the sub-ministerial level would convene in Abu Dhabi. We don't have dates to announce yet, but I can assure you that Secretary Blinken will remain personally involved in the Negev process and the Negev forum process, and I would expect that before too long there will be a ministerial where Secretary Blinken himself will represent the United States.
Uh,
That was boring. Hold on. All right, but there's one.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is telling his special envoy as a foreign representative, who is, I believe, the Minister of Scientific Affairs, Ron Dermer. And he said that he wants to formulate what's called a unified position between Israel and the United States vis-a-vis Iran. Can you articulate to us where do you agree with the Israelis and where do you differ? Because even Jake Sullivan this morning on the Gado, he was referring as we might differ in the way that we execute things.
Sure.
So how us and Israel, the U.S. and Israel, differ on their take on Iran.
At the strategic level, there is absolute consensus. There is absolute unanimity with our Israeli partners. We both wholeheartedly, fully are committed to the fact that Iran must never be able to acquire a nuclear weapon. That is the commitment President Biden has. That is the same commitment that we've heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu. It is, by the way, the same commitment that we heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu's predecessors.
There is no difference. Yeah, no, it's because it's the same barking orders from the same companies, the same administrations.
So we are in lockstep when it comes to that strategic goal. Now, there's no secret, and Jake alluded to that this morning, that when it comes to how we do that, there may be some tactical differences. There are some tactical differences. We've made no secret about that. We have a relationship with Israel that is close enough that it allows us.
Exactly. What up, Viceroy? Exactly. They are lockstep, exactly the same, because our interest in the Middle East is Israel's interest in the Middle East. They literally are cohesive. They are the yin and yang. I don't know. I mean, they're just, yeah, they are the same thing.
To have candid conversations, and when we disagree,
Whoa.
we disagree.
What up, intellectual? Everybody's hopping on. What's up? What's up?
We tell them what we think. They certainly don't shy away from telling us what they think. We believe that a diplomatic, maintaining that a diplomatic, that diplomacy, I should say, presents the most
Alright.
viable, durable, sustainable means by which to permanently and verifiably prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. That has always been our focus. Now, it has not always been the focus of the Iranians. And in fact, they have repeatedly turned their backs on a diplomatic deal in the form of what was on the table. That was a mutual return to compliance with the JCPOA. They did that most recently in September. It hasn't been on the agenda ever since. We continue to believe that diplomacy prevents the most attractive option, but
Biden condemned during Obama's tenure. Will Biden do the same? No. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Going too fast. Can't read it that fast.
we also agree with our Israeli partners that we shouldn't take anything off the table. We haven't taken anything off the table. And as we meet with our Israeli partners, one of the many issues we discuss is the various means by which we can see to it that Iran never acquires a nuclear weapon.
So when you say, sorry, can I just follow on this? When you say that diplomacy is your preferred option, does that mean that you disagree with your own president when he says on a leaked tape that the track is dead and there's no going back to diplomacy?
The president did not say diplomacy is dead. Not at all.
Negotiation in Vienna.
The president was alluding to the fact, which should be clear to everyone in this room, that the Iranians killed the prospect for a swift return to compliance with the JCPOA. A return to compliance with the JCPOA isn't on the agenda. It's not on the agenda for primarily one reason. That's because the Iranians turned their back on it. The Iranians reneged on commitments they had made. In the absence of that being on the agenda, we are.
Well, he's saying post Trump that they came back. I mean, personally, I think you have to have a nuke to be defensive against the USA. Like, if you were afraid of your sovereignty from the USA, which you should be if you have oil and aren't in lockstep with us, then yeah, you might actually need a nuclear weapon to protect yourself against the US. That's my opinion. I mean, I don't have any problem with the country trying to get a nuke. They need a nuke to protect themselves. Libya said, well, fine, we won't go for nukes, and then we killed them and turned their country into a slave state. So, I mean, you kind of need to have like that possibility of nukes just to keep us off your back.
Are focused first and foremost at the moment on what we can do to support the brave Iranian people who are taking to the streets across Iran, but also what we can do to disrupt, to counter the support that the Iranian regime is providing to Russia, support that Russia is in turn turning around and using.
Oh, I mean, no, freaking Biden's done nothing of good faith. He's done nothing positive, and he's attacked when possible. And we did kill one of their generals while he was going to meet like a peaceful meeting. So we have definitely not shown the best intents by any means. Yeah, so Russia has a massive nuke, and we will not try to fight them head to head anytime soon. Hopefully, Jesus, hopefully.
With deadly vengeance against
the war criminal. Obama is a war criminal. We were talking about war criminals at the beginning of his spiel.
The Ukrainian people.
So if the Iranian comes back tomorrow and says we're willing to resume the talks, then you will.
I don't entertain hypotheticals. I also don't entertain scenarios that are just that are just incredibly improbable. Even if the Iranians did come back tomorrow, we have a track record here, unfortunately, a track record that suggests to us that the Iranian word isn't worth the. Choose your metaphor. We have.
Okay, that's where I gotta just. The Iranian word isn't worth choose your metaphor, while the USA is what? The most slimy, double-crossing snake on the planet? What the fuck are you? Yeah, exactly. You know, like what is America if you're gonna call them horrible with their word? We're talking about people being war criminals. Okay, so at the beginning of this, he was talking about war criminals. We can go back to the beginning. You guys weren't here. Actually, I want to be able to clip this. But yeah, we're talking about war criminals. Guess what? America is currently bombing with drone bombs, and we hit 90% civilians. He's talking about selling weapons to terrorists. Like 60-70% of the weapons that we send to Ukraine are ending up in the Middle East or Africa. A lot of those would probably end up in terrorist hands. Like, I mean, we are just definitely not the right person to be calling this one out. Oh, absolutely the wrong person. All right, we got a couple minutes here at the end I want to watch as well. And then we can move on to today's Ned Price garbage interview. Today's Ned Price speaks garbage at America. And nobody watches these things, so that's why we're going to watch them. We're going to tear him apart. He is an entertaining asshole. And yeah, nobody nobody pays attention to these, and it's, it's something we should pay attention to once in a while. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, how long is our list going? Every decade has one or two that you can absolutely show in a highlighter that it's a lie, a big fat lie. Gulf Tonkin weapons, Cubans taking over Grenada, Falkland Islands, Nicaragua twice, Honduras. Israel's got our hand.
Private company. Obviously, our relationship with the ROK, it is extraordinarily multifaceted, and one of those facets is the private sector two-way investment. By two-way, I mean American companies investing in South Korea, South Korean companies investing in the United States. We want to make sure that two-way.
South Korea is just essentially a military outpost with an American corporate government. So yeah, we do a lot of trade with them, huh?
Pipeline is as robust as we can accomplish, and that's part of the reason why Undersecretary Fernandez is in Korea this week.
All right, that's why he's in Korea this week. This is an interesting couple minutes here. Hold on. All right. And still there are people that believe the government, yeah, people believe the government and mainstream media is horrifying. USA's history is tainted as a soldier returning from a tour of duty where their bread is as long as Bin Laden and they haven't showered in months. I don't get that one.
Yes.
Yes, I have a question on Turkey. I heard you last week. You spoke again highly of Turkey as a very important ally of NATO and United States. But Turkey accused both NATO and United States of cooperation with terrorists. They mean the Kurds of Syria, I think. Are the Syrian Kurds of the YPG are your allies or they are terrorists, as Turkey says?
Well, there is no denying that Turkey faces a complex security environment. Turkey has endured more terrorist attacks than any other NATO ally. We want to work with Turkey to address its security concerns. We believe that we can work with Turkey to address those concerns while still prosecuting the shared challenge that we have in Syria. And that is to see to it that ISIS is not in a position to reconstitute. The coalition to defeat ISIS, or Daesh, has achieved significant gains in recent years. We don't want to see to it that those significant gains are put at risk or worse, rolled back. And so, of course, we're going to continue to.
Yeah, we always love the people, not the government. And he's talking about putting back ISIS. Like, what ISIS? Which segment of ISIS? Because I'm pretty sure there's definitely segments of ISIS in Syria that are getting funded by us, the U.S. And there's segments of ISIS in Somalia that are getting funded by the U.S. So, which ISIS are you speaking of? Because I'm pretty fucking sure we have a little bit to do with a few of them.
Have close consultations with Turkey on this. We understand and appreciate their position. We recognize their position, and we need to continue our close coordination and cooperation with Turkey on these very shared challenges.
But you cooperate at the same time with the YPG, correct?
Our Kurdish partners on the ground have been an important element in that campaign that I referenced.
Al-Nusra, USA supplied Iranians to fight ISIS, and they were on the same side until Supreme Leader of Iran sold out the general after Iran's accident sinking of U.S. allied boat. You like to say a lot fast. That is, I mean, this is just all, like, he's just avoiding, right? Like, he's just absolutely avoiding. And it's really sad actually. Like, dude, like there's some real things going on in the Middle East, and this is what.
To take on and to roll back and ultimately to eliminate Daesh. Of course, there are terrorist groups that pose a threat to Turkey. The PKK is one of them. We've been clear about that. We can work to address Turkey's legitimate security concerns without losing sight of what is ultimately our shared objective, and that is to see to it that ISIS is not in a position to regain strength or to reconstitute itself.
So if I write that the Syrian Kurds are not terrorists and they are your allies, I am correct.
You're painting with a very broad brush. I'm speaking to specific security concerns, but I'll tell you who is an ally. Turkey is an ally. We look forward to continuing to work closely with Turkey on shared concerns. Yes.
So you're not ready for the pronunciation change?
They get a little evil laugh out of them. That's where I wanted to end it. Look at the little evil laugh. That's fun. That's fun. All right.
The process of Sweden and Finland will be further delayed. What is the
Yeah, we're going to end with that one. We needed to get to the first one, though. Turkey is going NATO, Iran will interfere as Russia. They have a segment on here today talking about how soon can we get Sweden and Finland in? How soon can we get Sweden and Finland in? I'm like, that's not a comfortable conversation. Why are we talking about how fast we can get Sweden and Finland into NATO? That seems like that's not a comfortable conversation. Turkey, an ally that sells weapons to Russia and does not take part in sanctions. Turkey also, they're selling weapons in the Middle East all over the place. So yeah.
And say that this is getting to the point of absolute ridiculousness. You can either confirm that this guy has been turned over and there was an embassy official there, or you can say that it's not true. But saying that you don't have a Privacy Act waiver when it has been announced by the governor himself and the names of a diplomat in Moscow and a diplomat in Warsaw are out there for
So,
everyone to see.
Matt, I know this is a
Completely disingenuous for you to say that you're aware of reports.
Matt, it is not disingenuous. I know this is a bugaboo of yours. We are not going to find resolution to this long-standing irritant of yours today. What I can tell you, and what you seem to be disregarding, is the fact that Governor Richardson is a private citizen. Private citizens can say whatever they would like without any restriction imposed by pesky things like the Privacy Act waiver. The Privacy Act waiver applies.
I hate you. I'm a private citizen, and I hate you. I hate who you represent. I hate who you lie for. I hate that you have sold out and became whatever this is. As a private citizen, I can say that.
To us, it does not apply to private citizens. It, in some cases, doesn't even apply to other entities within the executive branch. To say it is disingenuous, Matt, our attempt to stay within the bounds of the policies to which we adhere. That
I don't see how it impacts the Privacy Act at all for you to say, yes, we can confirm that an American citizen was deported and we took custody, or we were part of the team that took custody of him.
And there are many cases in which we have made analogous statements like that because we've been in a position to do so because of various Privacy Act waivers. When we don't make statements like that, we're not doing that because we want to be obtuse. We're not doing that because we want to stonewall you. Believe me, my job would be a lot easier if I could share every single detail of this case. We're doing.
My job would be so easy if I could just tell you anything at all instead of standing up here and trying to walk around and answer, because I can't actually tell you anything and I just stand here and I try to be obtuse the whole time and I can't actually say anything, and this is why I do, and oh my God. Oh.
Doing it to be consistent with policies that apply to us.
I'm not even asking for a confirmation of the name, but you just to say you're aware of reports that an American was deported. I mean, that's you're aware of more than reports that an American was deported, and saying to that is disingenuous.
Are you able
Sir, are you able to talk at all
I wish I could tell you anything at all about this, anything at all, but I have these press conferences so I can stand up here and say, ah.
about his ordeal, like these 9 months, and like the kinds of conversations you guys have had with the Russians, and when the State Department became aware of his detention by the Russians? Are you able to talk about any of that?
Unfortunately, I'm not. I can talk in generalities. Anytime we learn that an American citizen is incarcerated, is detained, is in the custody of a foreign government, we work to protect and to promote the interests of that individual. Oftentimes, we do learn of such cases from interaction with the family. That is really what our Bureau of Consular Affairs, that is the bread and butter element of their job, is to work with American citizens, to work with their representatives, to work with families, to devise how we can best protect and to promote the interests of Americans overseas. That is the core priority of the work we do around the world, but we also want to respect the privacy of private American citizens, however frustrating that might be.
They posted pictures.
He like stared her down so hard. Oh, he absolutely traded an American for, yeah, I mean, he stared her down so hard. That was so funny.
On Twitter.
So the treatment between previous cases and this one, obviously different cases, of course, but very different. And your speech is not at all the same. And you don't have any problem with the Privacy Act regarding certain people that were freed recently. And in this case, you do. So how do you
That's
explain?
absolutely right, Leon, because
But why is
there
that
is
so?
something called the Privacy Act. There is something called the Privacy Act waiver. If we're in a position to say more, we will. If we're not, we can't. Yes.
On that one more thing, the outsiders are referring to this as a wrongful detention.
Yeah, and the actual protest is February 19th, 1 year to the day away from when Russia started their horrible war. But yeah, it's actually the 19th, Sunday, and just in DC right now. But we'll be tracking that. I'll try to pull that off. We'll be tracking that.
That is a characterization that the United States government would use, or is that?
We have been open and transparent because we have been in a position to do so regarding cases of wrongful detention inside of Russia.
We have been open and transparent when we're allowed to, and then most of the time we are not. I actually listened to this on the drive, and most of it is garbage, but I did want to get back to that last 10 minutes. And then we'll do government secrets. We're going to watch the government secrets. That is a bonus episode. And then I'm going to clip this out, and we're not going to be able to watch it in the replay. So only you who are watching it live will be able to catch this bit. It's going to be a government secrets only live. Where's that lady? There you are. You had the good question. All right. One more of Ned Price, then we'll move on to some government secrets and some more segments.
Being hanged by the city wall in Stockholm. So does this kind of, these kinds of developments, does this give you guys additional concern that the already delayed membership process of Sweden and Finland will be further delayed? What is the timeline that you're looking at right now?
All right, we're talking timelines for Finland and Sweden joining NATO, because that is going to make the world more peaceful, ladies and gentlemen. Boys and girls of all ages over 18, because I put the maturity block on here so I can fucking swear, because I swear we do not need to be fucking adding 6 countries to NATO right now. That is not what we need to be doing to make things more peaceful. Like, we're talking so many countries adding, and like, what's that timeline? What's that timeline?
The timeline that we are looking at is as soon as possible.
It's not, I mean, it's, sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry to interrupt all of you. Why the fuck are we trying to do this as soon as possible? That's not going to create peace. They'll be doomed the day they sign with NATO. Absolutely, intellectual. They will be doomed the day they sign with NATO. That is not going to be fucking good.
But it's just not realistic, and I think you guys know that as well. So, I mean, are you more concerned over this latest incident? And let's say you guys are now angling for after Turkey's election.
So as soon as possible is in fact realistic. That's what we're aiming for. Of course, we know the steps that have to be taken. This is an admission that can only take place with consensus on the part of the 30 current NATO allies. But we've made the point consistently that Finland and Sweden are ready to be NATO allies. They are members of Partnership for Peace.
At least we'll know what's happening. Jesus, at least we'll see it coming, right? Those of us that paid attention, we can be like, yeah, I told you guys. We've been telling you. You said nothing was going to happen. We've been telling you. I got to get more water. I'm going to keep screaming on this one.
Other NATO structures, their militaries already work seamlessly with our military. And we remain very confident that NATO will formally welcome Finland and Sweden at the first opportunity. We believe that the time is right to finalize their accession process and to welcome them as full members. And we say that knowing that it will enhance their security as NATO allies, as well as that of the Euro-Atlantic region. And we say that not as a disinterested party. It's very much in our national security interest as well. We are and we will remain committed to their accession. You can see the strength of our support for their NATO membership in the overwhelming bipartisan vote that.
Oh, we have bipartisan votes for adding people to NATO to create perpetual war? That's what we have bipartisan support for? Oh man, you guys caught me off guard with that one. I wasn't expecting that.
Took place last year in the U.S. Senate, just weeks after their application was first submitted. In all of this, we've acknowledged the very legitimate security concerns on the part of Turkey. We appreciate the tangible actions Finland and Sweden have already taken to address those concerns, as committed to under the trilateral memorandum of understanding that Turkey signed on the margins of the NATO summit in Madrid in June with Finland and Sweden, including substantially strengthening their bilateral cooperation with Turkey on key security concerns.
When you say time is now and as soon as possible, does that also mean that it is the U.S. assessment that Sweden and Finland has so far fulfilled what they need to do under that memorandum that's signed in Madrid?
That memorandum that was signed in Madrid was signed between Turkey, Finland, and Sweden.
Sure, but the U.S. can have an assessment on whether or not the conditions there are fulfilled. You can have an assessment.
We very much appreciate the tangible actions that both countries have already taken to address those concerns. Ultimately, this is a roadmap for Turkey, Finland, and Sweden to reach the point.
Turkey, Finland, and Sweden. Let's get those guys in NATO. That'll make stuff way more safe in our lives. Let's get us all safe by getting all three of those countries into strong NATO ties.
Of accession, and this will be a question for those three countries, even as the United States continues to be very clear that we support their accession as soon as possible. They are ready to be NATO allies, and we look forward to soon welcoming them as NATO allies. Yes, Dylan?
Yeah, back on Japan for 1 second.
Yeah, no, we're done with you. That is like 50 minutes of this guy. Yeah, Russia and China can be outside and the rest of us can be inside. And then we'll be nice and comfy and safe. Nice and warm and safe in our NATO blanket with everybody except for the two nations in it. Let's do a government secrets. Let's cut this shit. Let's have something a little more fun. Just way too much intensity.